good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, or good evening if you're in Asia. We're just going to leave about 30 more seconds as people are piling in. This webinar will be recorded as well, just to let people know. Okay, we're going to get this underway. So first off, thank you everyone and welcome to this tour of the new Corporate Knights portal. I know everyone from around the world has been living under some trying circumstances with the pandemic amongst us. And I truly hope that you and your loved ones are all doing okay and getting through this difficult time. So why did Corporate Knights go digital? Why did we go from the old system where we used to send the thousands of companies we rate separate Excel sheets and then have them modified and reviewed back at Corporate Knights and then integrated into our database? The reason we've done this is over the last couple of years, although it was not our original intent, we've started to supply investors with the data and the ratings that we collect, and now have quite a number of them, investors representing approximately 15 trillion US dollars in total assets, who now use the Corporate Knights ratings for the universe of coverage that we have, is one of the inputs to inform their engagement and their portfolio decisions that they make. So is part of this maturation of a company coming to be more of a provider of data to investors. This is a necessary step for us to make things digital and to go online. So we know whenever there's change, there's always challenges, and we have tried to prepare and anticipate many of those challenges, but there will be challenges. And I just want to let everybody know that if you have any issues or any problems at all with using the Corporate Knights portal to review your data and to adjust your data and submit your data, create user accounts, anything of that nature, please contact us at research@corporateknights.com. And we are absolutely committed to working together with you to solve any of the issues and resolve them. And we apologize in advance for any issues that inevitably will crop up. So thank you again for joining us. So what we're going to do over the next 7 or so minutes in terms of format is give a quick tour of the process for how the Corporate Knights portal works. So you can sort of just see it from kind of A to Z, how it works. And I'll try to answer some of the questions we've been getting as I go through that process. And then when we finish that process, we'll take some Q&A. So please feel free to enter any questions you have into the Q&A or into the chat, preferably the Q&A. And then we'll answer those questions. And then we'll adjourn this online session, and we'll post a recording for this on the Corporate Knights portal page, and as well on the Corporate Knights Global 100 2021 page, which has a bunch of resources for the Global 100. So first off, the first step of this process is an email sent from research@corporateknights.com to your company, and the various contacts that we have identified that are still with the company, who we've liaisoned with in the past. In some cases, the email is going to contacts that do not need to receive the email, and please let us know if that's the case. We'll update our database and promptly make sure that doesn't happen again. And in some cases, there will be somebody who needs to have the user login but is not on the email chain. If that's the case, please let us know their name, email, and title, and we'll add them promptly so that they can have access to the portal. So this is what the email looks like. You get this email from Corporate Knights, and then you see there's a link you're instructed to click. That link takes you to the secure Corporate Knights portal, which should pass the firewalls of even the stringent financial institutions that fill out the survey. You then are asked to enter your email. You enter your email and press submit, and then you are sent an email that will enable you to set up your password. So you get that, and then you set up your password. So you enter your email in, confirm your password. It needs to have one non-alphanumeric character to be secure, and one digit, one uppercase, and then press reset. Your password has now been updated. We do not know your password for security, just to protect, because sometimes people use passwords, same passwords for different things. So we actually don't know your password, but you do. It's saved in the cloud. We don't have access to it. And then you can log in you go to the data.corporateknights.com page. You're asked for your username and password, and then welcome to the Corporate Knights page. So this is the homepage. You can see there's the link there, which we won't go to now, to the resource page for the 2021 Global 100. If you click on company, you'll see the information. So in this case, this is just a dummy company we created, CK Editorial. Not to cast any judgment on the CK Editorial when I use the word dummy. You see the country, the reporting currency. You can change either of those. And then you see the industry group, which if you would like to change, you can email us. You can review the full list of 71 industry groups that we use on the Corporate Knights Global 100 resource page. And if you see, and you can see your peers where they're listed, the Corporate Knights industry group was designed to be roughly in line with standard industry classifications, but it takes into account to a greater degree the clean revenue characteristics and the resource intensities. And so Chris is now just sort of taking us to the Global 100 page where you can find the resources for this. And this is the 2021 Global 100 page, which is where all the resources are. So if you click on this 71 Corporate Knights industry groups file, you then will see the different industry groups. And if you feel like your company has not been put in the proper industry group, please email us at research@corporateknights.com with the reasoning for why you feel it should be in another industry group, and we will carefully review it and get back to you. So now back to the portal page. Chris is just going to take us back to the portal page here, over there. So the Corporate Knights portal. So we're going to take a look at the KPIs. So the KPIs is really where most of the work is to be done. So what we've done is, in as many cases as possible, we've filled in the data using our own research team, external research providers, and in some cases third-party research. And you'll see there in the clean revenue side, we have the little question mark, and that little question mark is there for each of the data points. So Chris, if you can just hover over that question mark for clean revenue, you'll see it pop up and it says revenue consistent with the Corporate Knights clean taxonomy in alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We don't need to go there now, but on that resource page that Chris was just on, which we don't need to go to right now, there is the clean revenue taxonomy listed. So you can download the Excel file of the clean revenue taxonomy, sort by your industry group, and see all of the segments. Now, if we look at the number here, there's a number in blue, which means this is the number that Corporate Knights has inputted, and you can click on the blue number. And let's say you know that 6 million clean revenue number is not correct and you want to change it. So you know it's 7 million. So you change the 6 to a 7. And then you're confident that that's correct. You go to the green check mark and you click the green check mark. And now it's been, that means it's been confirmed by you as being accurate. If you scroll down a little bit, let's go to the energy indicator. It's down a little bit there, it's in blue. And we have 8,000 gigajoules. So let's say in this case, you're looking at the number and the number is correct. So you click on the I. The I is the little information box, which includes where this number came from. You can see the web link it came from in most cases, and then notes in terms of where it is, annual report, page 9. And for a number of the indicators, we are asking for companies to verify whether or not the indicator applies to full scope, because we have found in our research, especially with things like injuries and greenhouse gases, is many companies report a number, but it's not for their full scope of operations. And because we normalize those numbers by revenue, it ends up being a disadvantage or penalizing in some cases the strong reporters who are comprehensively reporting all of their energy gigajoules or whatever the resource indicator or personnel indicator is. So here we're asking for people to actively affirm whether or not this is for 100%, covers all of their operations and countries. So in this case, the answer is no. And then if the answer is no, we're asking for what percent coverage does this indicator have based on revenue. And so in this case, we have 70%. So you check this, it checks out, you press OK. And again, you can change anything you want there and then it will be updated. And so let's say you've gone through the whole thing. We won't go through each of the indicators because it gets a little bit repetitive. And you're kind of done for the day, and you want to save it. You can scroll up to the top, and then you can, in the top right there, where you see save, you can click on save. And then all the information that you've entered is saved. So you can log out now and that information will be saved. You may want to download the data that's in there as a CSV. So you can go to the download CSV at the bottom left corner, and then you'll have a CSV. You can share that with your colleagues, take a look through it. and maybe you'll find some things that you want to update, change. You can come back to the portal and then make those changes. And so if you're back at the portal, just going back out of here to back to the website, if we get back to the portal, Chris, then you can see at the bottom is a submit all. So if you click the submit all and you haven't actually approved all of the data by clicking the green check marks, you'll get a little sign here that says, are you sure you want to submit all, including any non-approved or blank values? And so you may have accidentally hit submit all because you think some people think it's save all. And so in that case, you would press cancel. But in this case, let's say you went through it all and you're happy, you're ready to submit, you can press OK. And then all that data will be submitted to Corporate Knights, and that will go into the Global 100 assessment and into your rating. So that is the quick sort of A to Z tour of how the Corporate Knights portal works. This is the first version of the portal. We are committed to refining it and making it a more enjoyable, smooth, pleasant experience for everyone. We know that that's what's required these days. We interact with a lot of technology, and there is not a lot of patience for things that don't work. So we know that there will be issues with this, and we are giving you our steadfast commitment that we will respond as promptly within 24 hours. And we'll be happy to provide our personal numbers as well to help anybody work through any issues that may crop up. So that's the conclusion of the presentation, the tour of the website. We do have several questions, and so we'll go to the Q&A portion now, and I'm just going to open the questions up right now. So we have a question from Karina. Can I save my updates as I go along, or is it only saved on submission? Absolutely, you can save your updates as you go along, and that button in the top right where you can press save. And I encourage you to sort of press save as you're going along to make sure in case there's any kind of outages. Anything you press save on will not be submitted to us. The data is only submitted to us when you press submit, which is the bottom right, which will prompt you to affirm all the data through the check marks, or just press submit all if you're happy to do that. We have another question here from Abby. The information you're requesting historically all had to be public information, and we had to cite the resources. Is this still true? Generally, yes, we have a strong preference for all the information we use to be publicly available. We do recognize with some of these new indicators that we're using, for example, the racial diversity indicator, that is not something that all companies in all countries are able to report on. For example, in France, there is constitutional impediments to companies tracking the race of their executive team or their board. So that's not something that's available for all. So for some of the indicators, we understand that it's not possible to provide a publicly available source, and that's perfectly understandable for those indicators. But wherever possible, we encourage companies to provide that source or documentation. And if the source is provided, there's a much higher probability that our analysts will accept the information. And in some cases, we do accept information where there is not a publicly available source if there is a good and valid reason. But we do have a really strong preference for information that's in the public domain, or that at least it can be cross-referenced between information in the public domain. Maybe you have to look at a sustainability report and income statement to be able to deduce what the clean revenue is. And so we are allowing a little bit more flexibility on that, but we still have a high preference for information to be publicly available. We have another question. Would it be preferable to provide our own source of data where you have listed data from third-party sources? Absolutely. Anywhere you see a data point that you feel is not correct, please change the data point and put in the data point that is correct. We're dealing with 8,000 companies, 43 raw data points, multiple years. There are many data points there, even though we've done our utmost on the quality control, which many companies will look at and feel like there is a more accurate data point. And that's really a large part of the purpose of this exercise, is to provide companies with the opportunity to improve the data that has been collected and to fill in blanks that are there. So whatever you see on the screen is there for you to edit. And if you're making edits to it, please provide justification within the notes so our analysts are well placed to be able to accept those edits after you submit. We have another question here. Will the submitted data be available to the users and will also be downloadable? Yes, whatever the current status of the data is that's saved, you can press the download button on the bottom left and get the CSV. Some people have had trouble converting the CSV to an Excel file. it's there's a pretty simple operation. We put it up on our FAQ for the Global 100 2021, how to do that in case there are any issues. But absolutely, you can download the data at any point after you save it or submit it. And after you submit it, if you accidentally submit it before you intend to submit it, please let us know, and then we can make allowance for that and wipe it and wait for you to do a fresh submission. We have another question here about clean revenue. As for the clean revenue, is it possible to access how this was estimated last year by you? Yes, if you would, we have our clean revenue taxonomy 3.0, which is available for download on our site. We also have the clean revenue taxonomy 2.0. We didn't want to confuse people by having two taxonomies available on the website. So if you would like to get the clean revenue taxonomy for last year, which has been modified slightly for this year, but it's broadly in tune with last year, please email us at research@corporateknights.com and we will promptly send it to you. We have another question here. Where can we get an explanation of what the question is asking for when I don't think there is information enough to do the calculation? So you can hover over the question mark, which will give you a certain amount of detail. We also, if you go to the Global 100 resource page, the 2021 resource page, you can download the data point definitions. There'll be a little bit more details there. And you can look at the FAQs. For example, some people have asked us, when you asked for EBITDA, are you looking for pure EBITDA or other forms of EBITDA? And the answer is pure EBITDA. Other people have asked us, when you're asking about total wages and compensation benefits paid to employees, does that include things that are compulsory by different nation states, in terms of employment insurance schemes and pension schemes? Yes, any money that the company is paying for worker benefits or wages get counted in that. And so we have elaborated on many good questions have come in, and in real time, we're updating the FAQ around the KPIs on the Global 100 2021 resource page to reflect that. But please, if you have any questions about the details of that, do ask us, and we will respond promptly and also add it to the FAQ page. And this is a learning experience for us too. It helps us to refine and become a little bit more precise and clear in what we're asking for, because ultimately we really want to be getting comparable apples to apples on all of these indicators, so we can be doing a good comparison with integrity, with the data having the integrity required. We have another question here from Abby. Is an American company, we report in different metrics than is being requested. Previously, we would report on a preferred metric and you would convert. Can you still do this? I believe this question's in reference to the resource indicators. So we track energy in gigajoules, greenhouse gases in metric tons, our various tons of waste, tons of toxic emissions. The way that we have set it up now does require you to enter the data point in the correct unit that is specified. So if it's gigajoules, don't enter megawatt hours. It is pretty simple to convert these things. We will answer this question in our FAQ and provide some web links that do the conversions on the resource use in terms of gigawatts to gigajoules and the various other units that are there. So there are simple web resources that you can get by Google, but we'll post that as well, just so that you know that at least we've checked it out and it's a reliable source. In future years, we will shoot to provide the opportunity for users to select the units and where there are indicators that are frequently reported in more than one unit, and then allow users to have that functionality. But that's a great question. Thank you. How is the scoring handled, especially with respect to the new metrics being requested this year? So we're broadly in line with last year in terms of where the bulk of the weighting is. The bulk of the weighting is on the clean revenue indicators. That's 42.5% of the total weight is on that single indicator, which is percent of clean revenue. And then we percentile rank that against your industry group peers. We have added the clean investment indicator, which has a 7.5% weight. And we have recalibrated the weights for each of the industry groups for the variable weight piece. So we have sort of applied weights that equal 70% of the total weight. And that includes things like the clean revenue, clean investment, the leadership diversity metrics, the supply chain metric. We have added a paid sick leave metric that's worth 2.5%. Do you provide at least 10 paid sick days for workers? And so after you get off those fixed weights, that adds up to 70%. There's 30% of the weights left to ascribe to the other indicators, the resource use indicators, the injury indicators, and the indicators like the CEO to average worker pay and the percent tax paid. And those indicators have weights that are attributed based on the industry's relative impact in comparison to the economy at large. So greenhouse gases have almost no weight, in the banking sector, whereas taxes have a large weight because financials comprise a large portion of global profits that are made, but are relatively small on a scope 1 and 2 basis of greenhouse gas emissions. Whereas a power generation company has a high weight on water use and on greenhouse gases, but a relatively low weight on some of those other metrics like the tax metrics. So it's you can download the methodology we use for this impact weighting system. It is available within our methodology, and the Global 100 methodology. You can download that file, and you can see how the weights are arrived at. But it's a fairly objective process that we take, where we're really just looking at what's an industry's relative intensity, whether it's greenhouse gas intensity or water intensity, with intensity, the normalizer being the revenue, and then comparing that to the economy at large. And if the industry uses a lot of water, a good portion of the water that's used by the economy, then it will have proportionately that will proportionally be reflected in the weight on that indicator. And so you'll see, but many indicators have minuscule weights for most industries, because most industries just don't make that much of a global impact when it comes to waste, water, greenhouse gases, or energy, or toxic emissions, or NOx, or even on the injury side. And so that's reflected in the weights. We have another question here. I don't recall if it was stated, is of what date is the requested data requested? So we do have a little description at the top of the KPI document in terms of what the cutoff is on fiscal year. And we're not looking for people to provide us with any special information outside of what your normal reporting period is. We're looking for information from your audited reporting year for all of the indicators, with one exception, the fines, penalties, and settlements, which is based on calendar year. How is the scoring handled, especially with respect to the new metrics being requested this year? Another question. So again, similar to how we've done the ranking in previous years, we're taking a similar approach to that. We take all of the raw data. We then do further quality assurance and make final acceptances or rejections on all of the raw data. We then normalize all of the raw data as per our Global 100 methodology document, is spelled out in that. And then we percentile rank each of the company's results against its peers to get a percentile rank. And then we weight each of those percentile ranks according to our weighting methodology that, again, is spelled out in the Global 100 methodology document and in the weights download that's available on the Global 100 resource page. I see we have some more questions, lots of questions here. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate all these questions. We have another question here from Aaron. Are any of the methodologies, such as clean revenue, on the portal? Typically, we've had an issue with company firewalls blocking the shared resource. So in previous years, we kept the clean revenue in a Google Doc, and that was an issue for some companies. So now we make it downloadable as an Excel document from the Corporate Knights Global 100 2021 resource page. And maybe it's just as we're talking here, Chris, if you can paste the link to, actually, we'll send it out to everybody after this, along with the video recording, a link to the 2021 Global 100 resource page, which has all this information. We have another question. Can companies be considered in multiple industry groups? No, there are some companies that are pretty diverse and have exposure. From a clean revenue perspective, yes, count any clean revenue you have that meets any definitions of any of the industry groups. We do recognize there are conglomerates out there that have business lines that cut across multiple industry groups, but we do have to make a decision for the percentile ranking purposes on which industry group to apply to a company. And so that sometimes is a difficult decision, but we try to make the best decision with the information available and are happy to accept your input as well. Can you post here how to get to the resource page and FAQs? Yes, we can certainly do that. I'll post that there right now. If you just Google Global 100 2021 FAQ, it should take you there. Or if you just Google Global 100 2021.
Hey, Toby, I just posted the direct link in the chat.
Oh, great. Okay. So it's right there. Yeah. So we have another question here. In the past, you provided more specific details regarding the data source, such as Bloomberg. However, currently it only says third-party provider. Will this become more specific? In most cases, what we've done, we've partnered with a firm in Holland called Sustainametric, who has collected many of these raw data points for your companies. In some cases, depending on the indicator, there's another third-party data provider that may have been used to provide the data. And so we can provide that with you if you email us the specifics for the indicator and the company. But in most cases, many of the cases, the data came from our research partner, Sustainometric, who helped collect this data from your annual reports and sustainability reports. So just looking here, we have a few more questions coming in. We're getting a little close to time. We wanted to finish this by 10:30. So I will, some of them are a little bit specific to individual companies. Just looking through here. Yeah, we have a question here on the racial diversity indicator. So how we do specify, there's a pretty clear definition for how we specify what is a racially diverse director or executive. And so what we're looking for is the director racially diverse in comparison to the majority racial group of directors in the headquarter country. So in the US, the majority of directors are white. So if you're not white, then that counts as a racially diverse director. We explicitly do not want companies to tell us which directors, if they're going to fill this in, are racially diverse. We don't want that information going back and forth on the web. We just want the aggregate number, and we specify that just give us the aggregate number. Don't need to detail the specific directors, just because that is considered sensitive personal information. But at the aggregate level, it is an important indicator. The investor clients we have are really keen on getting more insight into this indicator in a comparable, fair way. Our analysts have done a really thorough job looking at the indicators that have been, at the companies that have been assessed. Not all companies have been assessed by our analysts on the racial diversity, but the ones that have been assessed, we've done a thorough job looking at the bios, the pictures, and the names, and wherever there was any kind of question, having at least and one additional analyst confirm the opinion of the first analyst on whether the director is racially diverse. And so doing this for the key executive and the directors, we think is in tune with the times. It's also in tune with the information that investors increasingly are asking for. Many of you are already leading on in terms of setting targets and disclosing. So we have one last question I'll answer here, and then we'll conclude this online session. Post the video, we'll send the video to everyone, and be happy again to work with you. Please email us at research@corporateknights.com. We're happy to provide our personal numbers to work through any issues. But this last question is, if we have no data within the clean revenue area, how do we provide documentation proving the clean revenue? With all the data provided, continue to be private, i.e. not disclosed to the public. So with the clean revenue, it's the most important indicator, 42%. We really, and we do recognize that it's an emerging indicator. It's probably the most important indicator that any company has. Surprisingly, it's not yet part of mandatory disclosures, although Europe is moving forward with a taxonomy on sustainable activities, which will facilitate the comparability of this data. So this is the most important indicator. Please provide us with whatever information you can provide us. You can specify what is private, what is public, what we can make public. But in the end, in order for us to be able to accept any information, if we're going to publish a clean revenue number from your company, we have to be able to say that your company has signed off on that number and that it is correct if it's a number that we didn't come up with on our own. So that's the sort of the critical bottom line. It doesn't have to be publicly available. We do encourage, because that makes it easier for analysts to assess and to approve it, increases the probability of us counting a greater portion of it. And really, this is an indicator that investors want to know about as well. This is a really, what portion of your revenue is aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals or consistent with the Sustainable Activities Taxonomy out of Europe, which Corporate Knights Clean Revenue Taxonomy strives to be in line with. So please provide us whatever you can, but if you can't, don't despair if you can't provide us everything. Provide us what you can. We'll do our best to count as much of it as we can, and we will respect any strictures that you put on it. But do understand that if we are going to stick with the clean revenue number based on information that has been provided, part of our audit process, we need you to click approve on that clean revenue number for us to be able to use it if it's something new. So with that, again, just like to thank everybody for taking the time to join with us. And we know you have lots of surveys coming at you, and the Global 100 has a long storied tradition, and we really appreciate you investing the time, and we hope that the added sort of user base for the Corporate Knights ratings from the large group of institutional investors who currently use it, and growing group, this information will provide more signal for investors to allocate capital to some of the real corporate leaders out there in a fashion more consistent with what their mandates are calling for. So thank you again, and wish you all to stay healthy. And please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions or concerns. And we look forward to working through this process over the next few weeks with everybody. So thanks again. Have a great week. Take care.